Hey guys, in this video I want to show you how we can get started with the Flutter package called template package. So the first thing that I will show you is basically the state management, and I will show you how we can implement that in a very simple manner. And we are here with a very simple application which we basically have a page, which is the home page, and we have a simple text, and this is basically called by my Flutter material app, which is basically our app, which is another widget which initializes the material app and our page, right? So let's go and see how we will implement this part with the state management of template package. So first of all, we want to have a directory which will call based on what is the feature that we'll have. So for each feature we will have one page, its own block, and the few files like event and state specific to that feature. Okay, so in this case our name is gonna be home page, so let's call it like home. It's a directory. We're gonna move that page inside there. Okay, refactor, and then we will do one important thing here. We first going to create our files. The other file will be the block, so will be Dart, and we'll call it like home block. Okay, so I have two files. We'll have another file, but let's go one by one so you don't get confused. So first thing we want to do here in our page, because it's a state management, we want to have a state. When it's stateless, we don't have a state, so we will convert it to the stateful widget. Okay, once converted to the stateful widget, it makes the life easier for us to convert it to our base widget, which is part of our library. So we'll do an say base widget. Yeah, so first thing we want to implement that in our package here. So go here and say template package, right, and we'll go for the 1.0.3 or 4, that's the latest, and then we'll get pub.get. Once we get the dependencies, we'll go back our home page and say base widget. Okay, and we will delete this for now, the constructor, and we'll import the constructor directly. Okay, and what we want to do here, we want to add a key, and then we want to put it like this, base block, like so. Okay, and then here we want to pass something called let's see, what does it want? Let's see, go side, and we want to get block is a function, and we'll pass the get block function directly there. Okay, can be assigned to a function is a function. Okay, so we want to say function. Okay, we'll do it simpler way. Create boom, add key. I want to pass the get block, right? It's gonna be like get block, be a function which returns our base block. Okay, that's gonna be our constructor, because we're gonna pass a function that creates our block, and we will pass it to the super class. For now, that's the completed part for this part. Now we'll go here and say base state, right? And we want to also pass another generic here, which is the base block. Okay, so for now we are basically set up our page to use the base widget. And let's go into the block and let's create our block, a block class, and we want to be called like home block. Okay, extends template block, right? And we want to import some important methods here. So basically this method events will end up here. So our events from the UI will always end up in this method. Okay, let's import whatever is there. Okay, we have the we have our constructor here. Also we want to do one thing, dispose, right? This is another thing that we want to do, and we'll explain later what is there for us. Let's see, remove method declaration. We don't want to remove this because we will do something. Dispose. Okay, so now that we have created this, let's quickly do one thing to show you how we are actually initializing it. First thing, we will pass a function inside that returns our block. So our block will be home page, and here is the home block. Okay, and we want to have analytics. This for now we have a default analytics that we can use, but later on if you can customize yours, and that will not be a problem. I only want to make sure, oh yeah, that needs to be there. So for now you can use analytics proxy. Okay, and you pass empty and then false for now, which is basically saying these are the analytics that we want to capture. This you have a concrete implementation of the type of analytics that you want to send based on the frameworks that you are supporting. But right now, because we are not supporting anything and it's something basic, we're gonna pass our analytics, and it's always gonna be like this. And then this is gonna be an instance, a global instance that you will pass in all your blocks. Right now we are creating a new one, but don't worry, this is not going to be the same in all the cases. Okay, okay, so now that we have created this, let's run our project and see if we have the same result. Okay, okay, so we run the project, we have the same result. Let's see how do we actually manage a state inside here. So first thing you will have, let's see, we'll have a column, and let's remove this const. Okay, put that one there, and you want to have somehow an action that the user will do, right? So in this case we'll have main alignment dot center to make sure that it's in the center. Let's create a button, and we'll have our action which will be triggered by the user. So button, elevated button, right? Elevated button. We'll have a function to be triggered, and then we will have here a text and button. Okay, this is gonna be our part. Let me do one thing. Put a comma here. I want to remove the const because this is always a problem, having the const that doesn't allow us to put the function in the right place. Okay, but I don't like this, and I will put this const like single places. Right now we have another thing here that we can show you. We can test easily in this package, which is the Flutter toast. So if I run this project, you can see we have the button, I have the text there, and if I click this, right, let me run again. If I click this, let's put this here and see why is it right. Something needs to be run from the beginning probably. Okay, build and Flutter toast not found. Okay, we want to do a clean Flutter clean this, and then we want to Flutter pub get just quickly, and we want to run it again. See why this was not found, we will find out soon, right? And here we go. We'll run the project again to see. Okay, now I run this and we have a message displayed. So we're basically testing the button is here. But what we want to do basically, we want to on each event that happens on the UI, we want to delegate it to our block, right? So we'll say block. Remember the block, you don't need to take care of it. The block is already in the base widget, right? So here is managed. You don't need to create any specific block inside this class, and you don't need to have a specific, a concrete name of the home block. You see that the home block is basically, we cannot find anything called home block in our block, but we will still be able to communicate with that block. Okay, this is an amazing part of this package, right? So what we will do now, we'll basically say event.add, and here what we want to do is basically we want to add an event. We need to pass this event to our block, right? So before doing that, we need to actually create the event. So button tap. Okay, let's give a generic name, and we want to create a file and say Dart and say home event. Remember, under the home we'll create a home event, which is basically part of our 4 files mainly, and we'll have it here. And I have a quick way to do it, but I will show you the simple one that you will have. Say class, and I'll give it the name, and I say event because it's an event, and I want to extend the base block event, right? Base block event, and then I want to import whatever I need to import here. And this one is only basically an analytics name, and I see that Dart now has a new feature. Basically it's calling the super directly here instead of doing like super, and then you basically pass whatever you get here, string, and then like so. This is just something that I discovered right now, what they are doing this way, right? You can also pass empty if you don't want to record an event that will be sent to analytics, but make sure that just remember that you can add here your own custom data, right? That will be coming from the UI. Okay, so here we go. We have this event. Now we can go here and actually call it from here. Let's import it, and then we'll say my data from UI. Okay, so once we get here, we removed our Flutter toast. If I run the project, you see that this is basically not doing anything, but is calling our event, and we will capture this event in our method here. So here we need to do a check based on the type. So say if type, if event is our button tap event. Okay, we import this guy, and Flutter toast show toast. Let's see, this is our event. Okay, and then I want to actually see if the data comes. So say event dot custom data. Remember the custom data we are passing from the UI, that's going to be the one. Let's actually check. So we run this is our event data from UI. You see, we capturing the events inside this method. Of course, you have here something very clean, your own method, and say on button tap. Okay, and you have another if else here, if else, if event is, you have a new one. For now I don't have a name for it because we didn't create it. I'll put a generic stuff like this. Okay, so we now know how to send events, okay, from our UI to our block. Okay, let's now go to the next part, which is basically sending data back to our UI from here, right? So in this case we will need to have one important thing. We want to have a widget that listens to our block. So let's take this widget for example. I will extract it and say my text listener. Okay, let's put like my text. Okay, and let's put this generic widget. Doesn't really matter, but this is gonna be a normal method. So pay attention. How do we do that now? We want to listen to a specific thing that the block sends to the UI, right? So one thing important that we need to do, you will need to wrap your widget with a stream builder. Okay, it's something that Flutter provides you, so don't worry. And here you want to get a stream that we want to get from the block. So we say block, right, dot get stream of type, right? Remember, we need to pass the type here. This is the type of our state, right? We will pass this type here, and we will also pass our type here. But one second, this is analytic snapshot. Many of you will just already know that. And here I want to give a specific concrete type. Okay, so we want to have the types. Where this type coming from? We will create actually one. So let's go and create our last file, which will be a Dart file, and we'll see home state, right? And here we want to create our states, right? We had the events here, and we want to have the states here, and the states will be extending another thing that I will show you right now. So let's call the state my data state. Okay, which it can be anything, my list of users, my list of anything, like which will contain a list of users or anything. I will show you later. Okay, so extends base block data state. Okay, base block data state, and final, I want to put here some data string my data, which can be anything. You have many, or you have one, or you have none. It's depending on you, right? I want to create my constructor, and we will do specific thing with it. And now we want to listen to whatever event comes from the block using this specific state, and we'll pass it here. Okay, and now we want to arrange the block to actually send events with that specific state. So what we will do, we'll have a stream here, stream controller, and it's gonna be final stream controller stream controller. Okay, my data state. Okay, stream controller. Okay, and make sure you put the same type here and import it. Okay, once this is done, we want to do some important things. We want to register it, right? So we have something here called register streams. This is a list where we put our streams. This can be many. Okay, so I'll show you both, but right now only one. My data state, and remember here state and then stream. We want to pass the stream here because this we register, so the UI then can be listening to this specific stream. So then in another case where we have multiple, we'll have another one like this. Okay, commented because it doesn't exist yet. And one important thing to remember in this pose, you want to dispose it, close, right? Okay, once this is done, we can actually listen to whatever the stream says. Okay, so if I run this project now, nothing has changed because no matter what happens in this stream, we will always display this. But we want to do one thing here. Say if I check if snapshot.data equal to null, then I want to return a container, which basically means is empty widget, right? So if I run, you can see this is basically empty. One thing, let's do our first. Let's send our first data to our page from the block. So we will put it in the constructor, or actually let's be cleaner and say init, and we'll have our method, and our method will be void. And you want to do some specific initialization to display some data when the constructor when the page is created. You basically do it in the either in constructor or have a init method and do your thing here. So in this case we have our my data state. Let's call it controller, so it makes more sense. And we want to pass something add, right? So here basically we want to pass data of this type, right? And together, because we declared something like my data here, we can then say what type of data we're passing. Say this is coming from the block. Okay, and if I run this, you will have that you will have this data coming from the block to the page, but we are not displaying it. So in the first case it's gonna be empty, and if it's not true, then we will actually use the data coming from the block, right? So it's gonna be data dot my data, and if it's null or empty, we'll pass like so, empty string, and make sure that this is safe, right? So if I run this, and you can see this is coming from the block, right? So right in the first initialization, we can directly from the block pass some data, right? But let's actually use our event to send the data to our block, and from there send the data back to our UI, right? So we can perform some logic when the event happens here. Let's say we are here, we do some logic. Okay, we do some logic, and then we want to update our UI with our new data. So what we will do, remember that we have this state. It means that we will only update that part, that widget, which is listening here, okay, under the stream, and we'll say do that, and we want to pass our data. So in this case we can pass event.custom data or whatever we want to pass, okay? Or it can be actually coming from the backend, from an API, anything, right? anything you have logic, you can fetch something on the API and then update your specific widget in the page, right? So let's run this. See, when I click the button, whatever was sent by the button should be appearing here. Okay, boom, my data from UI. So this is the data comes here and then goes to our UI, right? From here we have data, right? So this is my data from UI. Clicked the button we've clicked, sending this data back to the block. Block is receiving under the event. We understand that by checking the type. We call this method, and this stream then goes and say, hey, this is your data. You can have multiple streams. Let's say you have a different one here, and it's gonna be like 2, right? Different type, right? And you make sure when you have this is registered as well, and it's also disposed in here. Okay, make sure of those things. And once you have these types, it can be listened in another widget. Let's say you have a similar widget here, which is our widget text2, and this is our actually type, which are now listening, and this is gonna be like 2, right? So we will do another event. Still in this event, we will say when this event happens, we want to also update our my controller 2, and you want to make sure you have the data, which is this one, right? You can change of the whatever you want. This is from my state 2, okay, 2. So when I run this, it doesn't show because we didn't put that widget inside our column. So let's see where is this used. Okay, comma, and then yeah, make sure one thing, when you do this, you want to run from the beginning, and then when I click this, you have 2 streams listening. You see, one is sending our state, another the second state. Okay, for now that's all for the state management guy. I will show other videos where we basically navigate directly from the block using our sync state, and then here we would be able to just pass a class and we will navigate to another page, show a pop-up or anything. That will be in the next video. For now, that's all. Thank you guys.